It's the Full Court Press with Eric Frandsen and Jason Walker.
Welcome back to the to the show that we're doing right now.
Following the local teams, breaking down the biggest games with in-depth analysis and team interview. Join the show by calling into 435-752-1069 or text 435-339-0321. It's the Full Court Press.
Rose, answer. Yes! Caught! Touchdown! They did it!
Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome on in. It's another edition of the Full Court Press. Eric Frandsen, Jason Walker, talking about a variety of different topics, certainly heavily focused on Utah State athletics as Utah State men's basketball played earlier today. Utah State football plays tomorrow. Utah State basketball will play again on Sunday. So we'll recap what happened today. We'll preview what happens coming up this weekend and invite you to weigh in your reactions to the game today. And now we know who the Aggies will face on Sunday, so we can give a little bit of a preview of their upcoming opponent. So stay tuned for that. But a lot of different things on the docket, but we'll always love to have you part of it. 435-339-0321. That's the Young Power Sports of Logan text line for those who want to chime in. As we start off talking about Utah State men's basketball earlier today in a midday matinee. Utah State basketball taking on Tulane in the Shriners Classic in Charleston, South Carolina. And so it was a neutral site, multi-team event for Utah State facing the Tulane. And this was kind of a shaky first half. This was a tie ball game. Some questionable things happening with the Aggies back and forth. But then ultimately, Aggies pull it off and have a huge second half and pull away. And some great performances by a couple individual Aggies, but a great team effort. Solid defense in that second half. The three-point shooting started to connect. They limited their turnovers. So many different things that happened for Utah State. A very different second half compared to the first half. But fun basketball game in the middle of the day for Aggie fans. If you got to watch it or if you got to listen to it when you're out and about on the job site. But Jason, a solid performance for Utah State today.
Yeah, and I think what you saw, especially offensively, was basically this is the peak of Aggie offensive basketball. You're not really going to see them play a whole lot better against Division I talent. I mean, technically they did score more points against Westminster, hit some more threes and whatnot, had more assists, but 96 points against a team that at the time, they may not be anymore, but at the time were ranked in the top 150 in KenPom. That's something that's going to be tricky to do. It's going to be a good defensive Tulane team. It's going to be a decent one offensively. I don't know if this is going to be a marquee win for the Aggies down the line, but it's still a solid Tulane team that they just absolutely dismantled in the second half, just ripped apart their defense where they made Tulane look silly. They just did whatever they wanted to do. And it really should, because like in that first half, or even the last couple of games, we saw some of the offensive potential from the Aggies, but some of the shots just weren't falling. But, at least in the second half against Tulane, the shots were falling. And heck, they were mostly falling in the first half against Tulane. They still got 40 points. So you have to be really pleased with that performance if you're the Aggies.
Most of those shots, though, were in the paint for Utah State. They're really punishing what are they called? The green wave?
Yeah, yes, Tulane Green Wave.
Tulane Green Wave. They're really punishing them in the paint. Gary Clark was going to work. Mason Falslev was attacking the rim. And Tulane just didn't really have a very good answer for what Utah State was doing in the paint.
Well, over the last few games, like Utah State has been scoring points against their opponents without hitting those three-pointers. They made 9 3-pointers across 2 games, and they had 80. I forget the 80-something against Weber State, and then mid to high 70s against UTEP. And that was with 9 total 3-pointers. But they were still getting solid offensive results despite a lack of outside shooting. It was because they were finding ways to get scoring inside the paint, especially against Weber State, where they had 3 3-pointers made the entire game, and they were in the 80s. That's tricky to do. And after the game, I was talking about how it was one of the most unique games where they shot like 63+% inside the arc and under 20% outside of it. And that's something they hadn't done since like 2005. So, and in the first half of this Tulane game, that was carrying over. The Aggies were still being dominant against the, inside the paint. They had, I think, 30 of their 40 points were inside the paint.
Yeah.
So they were continuing that. The 3-pointers still weren't falling. They were 2 of 9. But then, as we were all expecting this to happen, I mean, we went over this earlier this week about how the Aggies weren't shooting well from 3, but I didn't think it was really a systemic thing. It was just hey, this is a cold spell they're having. And that seemed to be the indicator there. And, well, eventually they got hot from 3. They kind of overcompensated by going like 10 of 14, I think, in the second half. They kind of overdid it a little bit. But still, take away like half of those 3-pointers, they still end up in the 80s. They didn't have to have that explosive of a second half, but they did. And it was just all by them hitting more shots. And then even, and I think we'll play some of this from Jared Calhoun's press conference, they made some adjustments. They didn't just say, oh, well, the 3-point shots will start falling. They found some ways they felt like they could exploit Tulane's defense with some particular play calls. They called those, got some open 3-point looks, and then they started falling as well. They put themselves in a position to succeed, and in this case, they did succeed. And so, again, a lot to be happy with by Utah State's performance on both sides of the ball, but obviously offensively, so much to be excited about.
Yeah. In the first half offense, doing things in the paint, finding different ways to score. They had problems with turnovers that were like, I don't even know the proper term, turnovers without facing pressure. I don't even know the right term, but when no one else unforced errors, really, when no one else was, because sometimes a turnover happens because a defender's in your face and they stick their hand in there and they knock it loose. We saw too many of those where there was nobody around, just a bad pass, just a dribble out of bounds, just weird stuff happened in the first half. Things settled down, and Utah State only had 2 turnovers in the second half. So they were much more clean, much more connected as a team with what they needed to do. And, on the whole, in the entirety, they only had 10 turnovers for the game, which when you look at it, that's not bad. And we've seen some games where they're like 17, 18 turnovers,
10
and it's
is
really bad.
Typically be below your average.
But based on how that first half started, it looked like it was going to be 19, 20 almost turnovers that could be possible. The fact that they only had 2 in the second half really stands out to me, and just how Calhoun got his team to settle down in the second half, play more connected, be more focused, and they just played with a different rhythm offensively in that second half, and they just ran away.
Well, it shows the ability of this team to focus and just get down to business. Also make some adjustments, because we saw a similar thing play out against Weber State, where I think they had a bunch of turnovers in the first half. Then they didn't turn it over nearly as much. Or maybe I'm mixing it with a different game, because there's one game where they only had like 6 turnovers the entire game. And there were others where they had a lot of turnovers in the first half, didn't have as many in the second half. So we've seen that song and dance a little bit before, even with some games where they've had high turnovers. So you're seeing the potential of the Aggies to limit turnovers for large stretches of time. And I think they're going to continue to put that together. And obviously, the less your team turns the ball over, the better your offense is going to be. And as Jared Calhoun has said for his entire tenure with the Aggies, the better his defense will be. When you don't turn the ball over, because that was something you look at in the first half with Tulane, a lot of their 3-pointers and a decent number of decent amount of their offense came from Aggie turnovers. They had, I can't remember if this was for the game or just the first half, 13 points off of turnovers. I think that might have been just the first half. I don't know what the total was for the full game. But then kind of on top of that, you throw another kind of play where they were getting blocked shots. And at one point, I think every one of Tulane's 3-pointers, like midway through the first half, like every one of their 3-pointers had come from either an Aggie turnover or a block. And then there was another 3-point attempt where the Aggies fouled Tulane that was also off of, I think it was a block. So like plays where the Aggies, you turn the ball over or a block ends up in the hands of Tulane and they get off and running, those kind of plays where they're forced into tough transition defense situations, that's where Tulane was finding their most success. When Utah State was able to get set, and Calhoun said this over and over, but when his defense gets set, they're pretty good. They force you into long, grinding possessions. They make you, keep having to probe the defense, and a lot of times the Aggies don't give you that opening. Now, you can still find that. Any defense is going to eventually find one. But Utah State has been way more efficient in the half court than they have against transition, especially off their own turnovers. And so when the Aggies stopped turning the ball over in the second half, Tulane didn't have that easy outlet for a momentum-setting 3-pointer where they had a ton of those in the first half.
Tulane had 16 points off turnovers. Utah State had 24.
Yes.
Let's go to the Young Power Sports of Logan text line. Got some people weighing in on after the Utah State men's basketball win earlier today. 2444. Oh yes, thank you for sending the picture. Forgot that 2444 let us know. Be there in attendance.
Oh yeah, that's right.
And a picture of the arena and the team warming up. But it said fantastic second half effort by the boys. That was the vintage Falsliv performance that we've been waiting for this season. He and MJ were too much for the Tulane guards to handle. Overall depth for USU was on display. Also being there in person, the Aggie fans outnumbered all of the other 3 fan bases by a wide margin, despite being the farthest school from the event. Pretty cool to see. Yeah, it's pretty good seeing them be able to travel. And I mean, even Aggie fans that aren't in Utah. So like every single one of them are from the state of Utah, obviously. Dexter there not living in the state of Utah at least. So yeah, good to see the Aggie fan base traveling even that far to support the team and provide a little bit of energy through their cheering and whatnot. And yeah, with MJ and Mason, like that's the kind of stuff that you're hoping to see from them all year. Maybe not to quite the extent of both of them going for 20 points, but like those are the kind of performances that are going to win the Aggies games, potentially closer ones where, I mean, in this one, it was a 21-point margin, but there are games where those two might be the only ones going on offense and they'll need them. And so it was good to see Mason, I wouldn't say finally break through because he had 18 points against VCU. He stepped up in that game, but really good to see him filling up the stat sheet again, where in 3 of his games, he was at 10 points or less. He had 18 against VCU. Yeah, but he really was on the attack today from the very beginning.
Yeah, he really was. He was out there getting his shot, got his 3-point shot going in the second half, which is just about making him unstoppable. And in that first half, the way Tulane was shooting it, where they made 7 3-pointers in the first half, like Utah State really needed offense to keep up. And they got 14 from Mason in the first half, and I think 12 from MJ in the first half. And they finished with 24 and 21, respectively. Those two were massive. And now in the second half, everyone was scoring, but those two in particular in the first half, going out there, being efficient, getting offense, having that game be 40-40, I think was important because it showed, hey, Tulane just had a really fantastic first half. And we had an all right first half. In too many turnovers, not many 3-pointers hit, good shooting percentage, but not their best half.
No. Well, Tulane has a 6-point lead with like 3.5 to go, and they don't score again.
Yeah, so
they could have like really blown it open on their favor but Utah State shuts them down defensively. They start making cleaner shots, and they get it even to go into half.
Yeah, and I think that was really important to where they were able to make their adjustments and come out being like, hey, this game is tied, and we don't have any extra work to do. We did that at the end of the half, and you can go out there in the second half and just implement all the necessary adjustments they did, and they did it flawlessly. They scored 56 points in the second half. They did everything, like everything that you went into halftime thinking the Aggies need to do this better, they did. Turn the ball over less, 2 turnovers in the second half. Hit 3-pointers, they made 10 of them. Limit Tulane's 3-point shooting, well, sort of check. During the important part of the game, they did.
The meat of the first part of the second half.
Yeah.
It really took it away.
Because here's the thing. I was doing this math, and I put it in the recap, which, did that get published already?
Yes, should be.
Okay, should be published. So I included this in my recap so Tulane shot 15 of 30 the entire game. That is not a good percentage. Most of the time, that's the headliner of a game you lost. You let the other team shoot 50%, they made 15 3-pointers. The Aggies, from about the 4.5-minute mark of the first half, or closer to the 5-minute mark of the first half, until about the 9-minute mark of the second half. So about 15-ish minutes of game time, give or take, a bit of change there. In that period of time, Tulane shot 1 of 7 from 3. And in that time, the game went from 36-30 for VCU to
Tulane,
for Tulane. They led by 6. And by the 9-minute mark of the second half, the Aggies led 71-53. So dang near 20-point lead. And now on either side of that 15-minute stretch, Tulane shot whatever the math comes out, they were 1 of 7 during that cold stretch, and I think 14 of 23, which is absurd.
Yeah.
That is, again, game-losing 3-point defense. But for a 15-minute stretch, Tulane's, mind you, 15 minutes is almost half the game.
Right, yeah. That's the middle portion of the game.
Yeah. So you can call it about half the game, Tulane's absurd 3-point shooting had almost zero impact. And it was during that portion of the game that Utah State made a 24-point swing. Whatever being down 6 to up 18 is. I think that's 18. I think that's 24 points. So that's where Utah State, did they play great 3-point defense for the entire game? Obviously not.
15 of 30 for Tulane. You shoot 15 of 30, 50% from 3. If you just look at that stat line alone, you think you're going to have a pretty good chance to win the game.
Yeah, and Utah State turned that in, again, for that stretch, they managed to limit it to some garbage time 3-pointers, and then obviously the first half, that's what was making it, a really tight game for Utah State, as Tulane was shooting well from 3. But then the Aggies buckled down for most of that second half, built a lead so that when Tulane started hitting a bunch of 3-pointers at the end, it was, instead of where in the first half, Utah State would come close, Tulane would hit 2 3-pointers and go up by 5 or 6. That was a struggle of the first half. To where in the second half, when Tulane started getting hot from 3, it was turning a 20-point game into a 17-point and then 14. And then Utah State would build the lead back up. That was the impact the 3-point shooting had late in the game. It was all about limiting Utah State's style points instead of it being potentially backbreaking. And so in that sense, Utah State was able to buckle down defensively and do what it needed to do. They held a team that hit 15 3-pointers to 75 points, which is impressive in and of itself. You hand a team 45 points on 3-pointers, they can usually get to the 80s.
Yeah.
And the Aggies did not allow that.
Let's hit a couple more texts before we hit our next timeout. 9315 texting in. This USU basketball team reminds me of the Texas Tech team USU played in 2021. That was bigger time defense, could really send the ball into the paint for shots. Your thoughts? Okay.
That's the one that had Mac McClung on it, that the Aggies lost to. I think that was the Miyashiketa. I think that was the year after Sam Merrill left, so it was Justin Bean and Miyashiketa. And that team was just really hard.
That's right. That was a COVID thing. There weren't very many people in the stands in the tournament. But yeah, Texas Tech had a really good defensive team.
They were a tough team, and they, by the numbers, actually weren't a great rebounding team, but they just out-physicaled the Aggies. I don't know if I could compare Tulane to Texas Tech. Was he compared? Oh, so was he saying Tulane was close? I thought he was saying Utah State.
Sorry, the Utah State team. My bad.
I don't know if I'd compare them. Is tough because Utah State, I think, is going to be a solid rebounding team. I don't know if they're going to be an elite rebounding team or an elite paint finishing team. because they're going to face some teams that are bigger and taller than what they've faced so far, and that's going to become a bit of a struggle. They're still going to be solid. Like Gary Clark's going to continue to be solid, but like he got blocked like 4 times in this game.
Yeah.
So he's not necessarily an elite finisher around elite length. And Mason Falslev has also had his problems finishing around length. So I think there will be some struggles that you're going to see Utah State face, but they're still going to be good in those respects.
And then one more. My score prediction on Aggie call for the basketball game was smart, a lot smarter than my football prediction. Usually get pretty close with basketball scores.
What was the score prediction?
I don't know. Wasn't shared. But congrats. I've got to take a time out here in the full court press, if I can speak. Love to continue to get your reactions to Utah State men's basketball win today over Tulane. They will now turn their attention to Davidson. We'll give you an update on how their game went with Boston College. We know now when the Aggies will play and who they will play on Sunday nights. So we'll give you updates on that next on the Full Court Press.
When the snow starts flying, be sure your tires are ready. At Express Tire, they work with all vehicles and all tire sizes with safety and comfort a priority. As a Point S Tire team member, you're backed by a nationwide warranty that includes roadside protection. No appointment needed. Just stop in and they'll get your tires winter ready. 3200 North Main.
Express Tire. Tires for less.
Express Auto, where tires and service come together.
It's that first kiss, that moment in time.
This is Jarek from Jarek's Fine Jewelry. Everyone knows us as an engagement ring store, but not everyone knows about everything else we do. Custom design, our in-house laser jewelry repair. We offer fashion jewelry, charm bracelets, necklaces, earrings, birthstone jewelry, watches. We love people to just look and make a wish list. Stop in and say hi.
Jarek's Fine Jewelry. Make it special, make it Jarek's.
Old McDarrell has a farm and appliance farm.
With down-home country prices and big city selection.
E-I-E-I-O. When you're looking for a friendly spot to drive a little and save a lot, hey, Old McDarrell has a farm. An appliance farm. Low overhead, but lots of country charm. See Darrell's Appliance in beautiful downtown Benson.
Looking for a shed that's built to last? At Top Shed, we're making sheds great again. Crafted with premium materials right here in northern Utah, our custom sheds are built strong for the toughest conditions, and will even come built on-site in towns like Logan, Tremont, and Preston, Malad. With late summer and fall here, now is the perfect time to get your shed designed, built, and delivered for year-round use. Top Shed, making sheds great again. Call 435-760-7766 or visit topshedusa.com.
The Aggies, the Jazz, the high schools, the Full Court Press on Sports Talk Radio, 106.9 FM, 1390 AM. The Fan.
Welcome back to the Full Court Press. I'm Eric Frandsen. He's Jason Walker.
Am I?
For as long as you want to be, I guess.
That is a weirdly unsettling way to phrase that.
Well, some people change their minds on how they want to be called.
Yeah.
Some famous people take stage names.
A lot of times that just has to deal with...
We could come up with a nickname for you.
I have nicknames. I've had a few in my life. Jaywalk was one I had in high school. Then, at least for part of my college, it was Diesel. That was born off of people watching me play pickup basketball. And the one advantage I had was my weight, and if you want to call it an advantage, because it had its disadvantages. I move like a diesel train, but I also had its positives where when I moved, I got to where I was going.
There's not much to stop it.
Yeah, nobody was stopping me, so I played a bit of a bully ball style, and I earned the name Diesel.
Diesel. All right, I'm going to start calling you Diesel. Bring it back. A couple texts coming through on the Young Power Sports of Logan text line, 435-339-0321 for those who want to chime in. By the way, 9315 said his score prediction was 96-75.
Do I buy that? Because that was
exactly the score. That's clairvoyance right there, if that's true.
Pixar didn't happen.
5338 texting in, buy or sell, replace KT in the starting lineup.
That one's tricky, and to be honest, I don't think Jared Calhoun gives a rip about like who's actually in the starting lineup. But, and I know we talked about lineups.
Not to a degree.
There's some
as far
aspect
as guys
where it
who
cares.
are in rotation.
But it is a lot more about like who's playing. Gary Clark plays 26 minutes. Carson Templin plays 15. And so as far as being in the starting lineup, sure, that's kind of an important thing. But it's, if you feel like Carson isn't living up to his best potential, which I would probably say is fair, like he's played a little under my expectations for him, what I was hoping to see from him. Mind you, he had a 16-point game the other day where he was providing offense where Mason and MJ weren't. So it's not like he's had a terrible season. But there are aspects where he hasn't played well, and he didn't play particularly well in this one.
He had his moments of struggle, some silly turnovers, forcing passes in the paint to another player, also in the paint, which generally not a great idea when it's crowded. And then a couple times where he got the ball and didn't really know how to create a shot in the paint. Like he didn't have any legitimate low post moves. But he's had moments where, because of his energy and his activity, he makes things happen for Utah State.
Yeah, and that's where he's going to have to continue to provide his value. As far as replacing them in the starting lineup, honestly, I feel like the Aggies' best, like if you take this team and you have players playing, at least maybe some of them playing a little closer to their peak, the ideal lineup would probably have Gary Clark and Zach Keller as the bigs. The problem is Zach Keller has had a limited impact in this one where he's not. I thought he was going to be one of the more underrated guys, and turns out I was overrating him. His impact has been rather small. Because I'd like to see Gary be able to play that power forward spot, but he needs floor spacing next to him for his paint, his paint touches to be more effective. But overall, Gary has obviously outplayed everyone on that front court line.
Yeah.
This is a guy I don't think he's averaging a double-double anymore, but he's got 3 double-doubles in 5 games, all of them coming off the bench. He's been really big as far as grabbing rebounds, where the Aggies last year lacked a guy that would just go out there and dominate the glass. They have one of those this year. They have a guy who's going to go out there and get you a rebound out of nowhere. And he's been that guy in a lot of cases. And he boxes out really well, chases rebounds really well, and he creates points in the paint, where last year they didn't have anyone who created points in the paint. They had guys who could take advantage of good situations. Calhoun praised Gadarazzi for his pick and roll finishing, but Gadarazzi struggled to create that in a lot of cases. If you lobbed it up to him and he was open, he'd throw it down on anybody. But he didn't create those points. Those just tended to, he was the guy tasked with finishing a shot.
Yeah, you couldn't throw it to him and then say, go to work, get a shot. It had to be like, this is a designed set in the flow, he can finish. But to throw it to him and make a move in the low post, he just really wasn't equipped to do that. Carson has moments where he looks like he can, but he also has moments where he doesn't look like he knows how to do a pump fake, pivot, do a drop step. It's just, he looks a little lost sometimes in the low post. At least he did today.
Yeah, and today wasn't as great as, because it was, again, what was the game he had 16 points in? Was it this last game against UTEP, or is it the Weber State game? I can't remember which one. But in that game, he showed a couple of post moves, and you can see where he has a couple of things. His biggest thing is that he's got that floater in the paint.
It was against Weber.
It was against Weber, yeah.
Yep.
So he's got that, and he's working a little bit more on his pivot, but he is still developing the finer aspects of, post scoring, because there are a lot of nuances to it. It's not about, spending 8 seconds backing down your guy and doing this and that. A lot of times, you look at what Gary Clark does, it's catch, dribble, and he's like 1-2 dribble, and then he's already into his move. Sometimes it's
quick. Get the ball, move, make a decision, pivot, pump, whatever. He gets it, he goes.
Yeah, and a lot of times he's putting in the work before like he even gets the entry pass, because he'll catch the pass and he immediately goes to the rim because like he's already done the work to pin his guy, maybe away from the basket, or in some cases you saw this with Great Osborne all the time, where if you ask Great Osborne to dribble and back down and have an 8-second post up, he's actually kind of bad at it. His thing was catch, turn over either shoulder, or power through a guy or draw a foul. Like his post ups were quick. Carson didn't
give the defense time to set and figure out how to get in his way.
Yeah, and so there are a lot of nuances that go into, what you do before you take the pass. Making the moment after you catch the pass as easy as possible. And then, reading your defender while he's on your back, basically. Okay, what's the best move? If I go this way, is he going to overcommit to that? Because you saw Gary Clark pull off a really sweet up and under. And that comes from reading your defender while you're in the post. And it's just these nuances. Gary Clark's like a fifth-year player, and Carson Temlin's in his third. These things take time.
Yeah. He is a more experienced, more accomplished.
And it's why bigs often take longer to develop. That's kind of the convention of wisdom. Bigs take longer to develop, and it's because there's a lot of nuance to all those things, and you need to be able to learn that. So Carson is improving. He's leaps and bounds of where he was as a freshman, where he had none of this. He had no touch on his floater, had struggled on his touch around the rim, and now he has a lot of those things. So we'll see him continue to develop, but it is nice to see Gary Clark to have that experience, and hopefully Carson can learn from that. But it is good to have that on the Aggies, where they do this year, as opposed to not having it last year. They have someone this year who will create points in the paint, and we've seen the impact of Gary Clark with that in some of these early games, where maybe one or two of these games, they maybe don't, the margins are a lot closer, and maybe they don't win against VCU. Maybe that game against Weber State is they sweat that out a lot more than they were before. But Gary Clark and the ability for him to create points in the paint has been super valuable. And again, in Carson, in one of those games, he did it himself. Again, he's got a 16-point game under his belt already. He done it too. But
16 against Weber. He had 10 against UTEP. So he's a double-digit scorer.
It's not like he's having a terrible season. I don't want to give that impression, but like it's why like you have a discussion. Maybe you put Gary Clark in the starting lineup, but again, it's just a matter of look. If Carson's having a 16-point game, you leave him out there and he plays 20+ minutes. If he's having a game where he's struggling and Gary Clark isn't, you play Gary Clark. If they're both doing really well, maybe you play him at the same time, depending on how you feel like that lineup works. So I know the discussion about the starting lineup gets a lot of talk, but there's maybe a real aspect to that where maybe a coach should consider changing the starting lineup because they're talking about how you begin a game, which can be pretty important. But in the end, for coaches, and especially with Coach Calhoun, where he almost got mad at the media. I don't want to say he did get mad, but like he almost chided us for focusing on the starting lineup too much. And it kind of displays his attitude. Agree with it or not, to him, he doesn't give a rip about who starts. It's how is he setting up the rotation, and how is he setting up this team to finish a game, and keep keep the flow of the game. And that's what seems to be most important to him. Where we in the media and as fans put a lot of emphasis on the starting lineup because that's supposed to be your 5 best players. So you want to know, okay, who are the 5 best players, and make sure to put your 5 best players in the starting lineup. But that's just not the way Coach Calhoun has approached that process.
5662 on the text line. Couple texts here. Really liked the game Drake played. Impressive after the ankle injury too. Reminds me of a Tyler Newbold type teammate. Solid and reliable majority of the time. And then might be more of a road game environment Sunday night. Davidson's campus is 3.5 hours away from the arena. I'm sure the Aggies will be ready. Yeah, I just
by at least one account,
pulled
the
that up
Aggies
and
seem to do
verified
pretty.
that. Yeah, 3.5 hours separate Charleston and Davidson, North Carolina.
Yeah, but apparently the Aggies had better representation. I didn't realize Davidson was in North Carolina. I do not know East Coast geography in the slightest.
Yeah, for some reason I was thinking Davidson was in Ohio. So that
I honestly had the same thought. You'd been like, "Hey, where's Davidson?" I would have been like, "I don't know, Ohio."
I honestly didn't know. Now I know. But you're right. There's a possibility that they're going to have fans come, but it's 3.5 hours away. But that game locally doesn't tip until 9 p.m. So that may be prohibitive from some of their fans making the trip. If it was an earlier day or even like a Saturday where they would have the opportunity to stay the night maybe and return home the next day, maybe there's a chance for that. But so there might be some, but I don't know if I'd say it's going to be like a true road environment for Utah State.
It's like more inducive for like the Utah State fans who have gone and made a weekend of it, where they went out and said, "Hey, we're going to go to South Carolina and stay in a hotel for," they might have showed up on Thursday, go to the game Friday, enjoy a day Saturday, Sunday, and then like fly out Monday.
Yeah, man, if I was retired and I had like options to just travel, this would be a great weekend to go to Charleston, South Carolina. It looked like the weather was nice. It's a nice little town. Go watch a couple of games of basketball in an arena. You got time in between to go see the city and find some restaurants and little shops. Go watch some more hoops. I mean, that would be fun. I'd love to have a weekend where I could just do that.
You spoke of retirement very fondly just now.
I'm thinking about it. But no, you know what? Yeah, Davidson is close. And we were discussing this last night, like which would be the better opponent for Utah State to face, Davidson or Boston College. I kind of found myself making the case more for Boston College, just P4 athletes. They have a couple P4 transfers. They're going to play an ACC schedule, so maybe they don't look as good right now.
They're going to get killed by the ACC schedule, though.
So they're going to... They are, but they're going to, by nature, being in that schedule, play a lot of games. So their net will look okay. Davidson has a good basketball history. They're in the A10. They'll still have some good games on their schedule too. So it's not it's a win-win. Honestly, I don't know that there's a bad scenario or a good scenario for Utah State and who they face on Sunday. But at this point, it doesn't matter. They're going to face Davidson. And this was a team that played Boston College earlier today, won 59-49. Davidson is undefeated. And we're talking about turnovers and things like that for Utah State. Davidson forced 14 turnovers from Boston College. Davidson had 7 steals and 3 blocks today. They've pretty balanced scoring. It came from a lot of different guys. Only one guy in double figures, and he only got to 12. So they didn't score very much. So it gives you an idea about their defensive ability. Only one guy got into double figures, and it was 12. But it came from a lot of different guys, just a little bit here, a little bit there. And so this is an interesting opponent for Utah State, taking on Davidson, who's 5-0 coming into the matchup.
Yeah, and this is... Well, Davidson's had basically 2-ish kind of games because they beat a non-D1 team 97-63. They then beat Washington State, supposed to be a decent team this year, 85-69. They also had a game against Bowling Green, which was a barn burner. They win that one 91-87. But then they had this game against Boston College where, what's the opposite of barn burner? Barn raising, I guess. Boring, tedious, hard to watch at times. Where it's
a barn cooler,
where everyone was cold shooting. Davidson had its worst shooting night of the season.
Yeah, they shoot 44%. Boston College shot 39% from the field, 14% from 3.
Yeah, but Boston College was also in a game kind of like this against Charlotte, a team that the Aggies will see later this year. They'll play at Charlotte as well. They won that one 62-55, so just a slightly higher scoring kind of version of this game, and a slightly closer margin. So Davidson they've typically been a higher scoring team. They've had 3 games of 85+, but they've also managed to win games that were just kind of ugly, low possession, low scoring, defensive, grindy games. So, in mind you, Utah State, well, Utah State actually hadn't a grinding game. They scored 75 plus in every one of their games. So they've not kind of faced that. But, I mean, it's not like Davidson's a dominant defensive team, but they've had 3 games where they held a team under 70 points. 4 games where they held a team under 70 points. 3 where they held them under 64. So, yeah, that defense is going to be interesting. But I think in this one, Davidson showed kind of its first hint of weakness on offense. Whereas in every game before this one, they shot 38+% from 3, 40+% in, this is a team that was like top 10 in the country in 3-point percentage earlier today. They shot 25% from 3 against Boston College. So is that something the Aggies can kind of continue and force them into another bad game the way Boston College was able to? That's going to be a pretty big key for the Aggies. But you look at this team of shooters that Davidson has, that's going to be a tough ask.
Davidson, with their win, moved up to 112 in KenPom. Boston College fell to 117. Utah State up to 36 in KenPom. I got to take another time out here in the Full Court Press. Still love to hear from you, your reactions to Utah State's win over Tulane earlier today. And shifting attention now to Davidson, who they'll face on Sunday. Any additional thoughts or reactions to USU's basketball win? 435-339-0321.
Advanced Heating and Air Conditioning and Advanced Fireplace and Stove want to help local families this year with a food drive. Drop your canned foods off at the Advanced Fireplace and Stove showroom across from DI or hand them to one of their technicians when they come to your home for a repair. The Advanced team will match all contributions and offer the first month free when joining the Advanced Comfort Club. Find out more at advancedheating-ac.com. Donate to the Advanced Canned Food Drive for local families.
'Tis the season, and if you're getting engaged, bring that special someone to S.E. Needham Jewelers. You'll love our extensive selection of beautiful engagement rings. Also, you'll select a diamond from Utah's largest selection of loose diamonds. You'll find a unique ring at an affordable price with diamonds direct from Antwerp, Belgium at internet pricing. It just doesn't get better. And you may also take advantage of our 12-month interest-free financing. Open Monday through Saturday, 10 to 7, where Utah gets engaged. S.E. Needham Jewelers, middle of the block, at the sign of the clock.
Hi, it's Emily from Serenoni, and I have one question for Black Friday shoppers. Why pay more for comfort? Leading competitors charge over $300 for an XL faux fur blanket, and at Serenoni, our everyday price is $169, and this Black Friday, it gets even better. Take an additional 25% off our everyday low prices, and you only pay $110 for our XL blankets. Same luxury, same softness, same lasting quality. Shop Black Friday at Serenoni.com or head into our store on 10th West.
This is Jordan with Primrose Home Care and Hospice. When it comes to home care, it's important for you to know you do have a choice. If you or a loved one is in need of home care services, remember Primrose Home Care and Hospice believes in treating the patient, not the problem. We work directly with you and your doctor to create a health plan that's catered to your needs. Our team is devoted to providing options in the freedom and safety of your own home. Call for a free home safety evaluation, 787-1369, and visit primrosecare.com. Primrose Home Care and Hospice. We're your home team.
Following the local teams, it's the Full Court Press with Eric Frandsen and Jason Walker.
Winter is coming fast. Make sure you're ready for it. With Young Power Sports Logan, they're ready for it. Right now, they've got blowout pricing on all 2025 Ski-Doo and Polaris snowmobiles, up to $6,000 off. And don't forget, Young Power Sports offers free pickup and drop-off for service, plus free preseason checks on all snowmobiles. Just off South Main in Logan, Young Power Sports Logan, where your winter adventure begins.
So, you didn't talk about this on yesterday's show because I don't think it had happened yet, but Dayton Albury.
Yeah, Dayton Albury. Throwing a punch.
That was the thing that happened.
Yeah.
It wasn't even like a punch. It was like was by literal definition a punch, but like he didn't throw a punch. He just like stuck his arm out and like.
Oh, he definitely smacked
he did. He
Nebraska player from behind.
I think he chipped a tooth. Like, I think in the way that, like, he hit, I think, because the first time you watch it, you think he just, like, hit him in the back, almost the neck, like lower head neck. But I think as I watch it and then having known the aftermath, I think he actually clocked him from behind, like in the jaw, just kind of like from behind, slashed slightly to the side. Because the guy ended up chipping a tooth, and I think he hit him in the jaw, which, knock-on effect, literal knock-on, where he ends up chipping part of one of his teeth. So, yeah, that was a thing. Issued an apology after the game, got ejected. And I was, like, following that because I was sitting in Rice-Eccles Stadium the whole day, so I wasn't exactly watching basketball, but it was a score I was following. And I noticed Dayton Albury had only played 13 minutes, and I was like, "You get hurt? Like, what happened to Dayton Albury? He's one of their top guys." And so I literally looked up on Twitter, and then I saw a video. For those wondering about Dayton Albury's ejection, I was like, "Oh, this is going to get spicy." I see a video of him punching a guy. I was like, "Oh,
it's so
okay."
weird because it seemed like this Nebraska player didn't really seem to do anything too much to him. It was to his teammate, but it was in front of him, and I don't know. There must have been some chippy stuff going on that led to that. But Albury issued an apology last night. Coach Eric Olin today issued a statement saying that Dayton reached out to that player specifically after the game to personally apologize. He will not be suspended. He will not start for New Mexico's next game, but he can still play, which is it's a team decision, I guess. But
it's kind of we want to punish you, but like not in a way that actually matters. Because they're playing Mississippi.
We want to punish you, but not the team.
They're playing Mississippi State tonight, and that's going to be another one of their big games. They've got a pretty stacked non-conference schedule. Kind of jealous of how good their non-conference schedule is compared to the Aggies in some respects. But yeah, next on a 2-game losing streak now after a decent start, albeit against a pretty weak schedule.
Yes. So that was definitely interesting last night in the Mountain West.
Yeah, that was the thing that happened.
And then the other thing too, kind of related to the Mountain West, Troy. We're kind of dumping on San Diego State losing to Troy in double overtime. Well, Troy just went to USC and pushed them to triple and should have won that game. They have a chance to. They're up by 2. USC misses a shot. Troy gets the rebound with just seconds on the clock. They should have just held on to the ball, force USC to foul them, send them to the line. But instead, they throw it out half court, like to try to do a long pass to a teammate. USC gets it, do a quick pass, and they hit a 3 as the buzzer goes off, and USC wins in triple overtime, beating Troy. So maybe that loss against for San Diego State isn't looking quite as bad as perhaps we were making it out to seem.
Well, it's still not going to be good, but this is a team that's probably going to finish in top 100 of the net because they're showing out pretty well against their schedule so far. They had 2 iffy losses. Not iffy. Like they lost to Loyola Marymount, and then they lost to CSUN. LMU's a pretty decent team. But then they're going to go play against the Sun Belt, and they're probably going to do pretty decent against the Sun Belt because there's not a whole lot of good teams in that conference.
It'll be easy to stack wins.
Yeah, that's the thing. You want your opponents to stack wins. That's for Utah State. It's kind of why you almost like Davidson as opposed to Boston College. Boston College is going to stack L's because they're going to play a bunch of good ACC teams. Davidson, they do play some tough games, which actually kind of creates this opportunity for Davidson to be a good, mid-major with maybe some big wins from them, but then they're going to stack wins in conference play in the A-10. So that'll be interesting. But we got to hit another break. We'll talk a little bit more about what's actually happening in this weekend with Mountain West basketball games that will be played by Mountain West teams. That's coming up next here on the Full Court Press.
Advanced Heating and Air Conditioning and Advanced Fireplace and Stove want to help local families this year with a food drive. Drop your canned foods off at the Advanced Fireplace and Stove showroom across from DI or hand them to one of their technicians when they come to your home for a repair. The Advanced team will match all contributions and offer the first month free when joining the Advanced Comfort Club. Find out more at advancedheating-ac.com. Donate to the Advanced Canned Food Drive for local families.
This is Catherine Buse with Cache Valley Bank, and we understand that concerns about fraud can weigh heavily on you. Your peace of mind is important to us. That's why we're committed to looking out for you and your family. Our team keeps a vigilant eye on your account. If you ever have concerns or need support, we're just a call or visit away. Whether you need advice or just someone to talk to, our friendly staff is ready to help. We're more than just a bank. We're your neighbors and we care about your security. Visit your local branch today. Cache Valley Bank, member FDIC.
Spend less time at the post office. With Formax and Mint mailing systems from Les Olson IT, you can quickly, accurately, and easily process your outgoing mail and even save on postage. Fold your documents, stuff and seal your envelopes, print addresses, weigh and measure to apply proper postage, all with the click of a button. With multiple model options available, you're sure to find a Formax solution and Mint mailing device that perfectly fits your business needs.
Les Olson IT.
Looking for a luxurious local space to host your next gathering? The Hive Event Center in downtown Logan brings modern elegance to your wedding, private party, or business event. Your guests will be amazed at the glamorous design, and you'll benefit from the advanced tech included in every rental, from DIY parties to full-service packages. 255 South Main in Logan behind Beehive Grill. Luxury lives here. The Hive is your place to gather.
Luxury lives here. Luxury lives here. The Hive.
See us online at thehivelogan.com.
Thank you for letting Cache Valley Ear, Nose, and Throat, the Allergy Clinic, and the Hearing Aid Center care for your family this year. Be sure to call us for an appointment before the end of the year to make the most of your cafeteria or flex funds. Located in Providence and North Logan, Cache Valley ENT also has offices in Box Elder, Rich, Bear Lake, and Franklin counties. The entire team at Cache Valley Ear, Nose, and Throat wish you and your family a healthy holiday season. Go to CacheValleyENT.com for details. Most insurance plans, including Select Health, are accepted.
The Aggies are #1 here. The Full Court Press. Connect with us on Facebook, Twitter, and online at 1069thefan.com.
Need a local mechanic you can trust? Visit a locally owned Napa Auto Care Center. You can find them online at napaonline.com. Simple to remember, napaonline.com. That's how you find a Napa Auto Care Center. Or you can also just stop into any of the Preston of Providence locally owned Napa Auto Parts stores, and they can direct you where to go. Interesting night last night in the Mountain West. As you had already mentioned, the New Mexico-Nebraska game, UNLV was also in action last night, taking on St. Joseph's. And a lot of free throws in that game. UNLV wins at 99-85, but a combined 83 free throw attempts in that game last night.
If
it's
you're
ridiculous for anybody to get any kind of a flow.
If you're a referee and you call that many fouls, like just unless they spend the last 10 minutes of the game just doing take fouls, like, just immediately discipline those referees. Because just at some point, just let them play.
Are you getting paid by the whistle?
Yeah, these guys
every time you blow your whistle?
Apparently, they get paid 10 cents every time they blow their whistle.
That's
and it's
crazy.
just like there is a point where you just got to let these guys play. Let them play the game of basketball. I can guarantee they did not actually commit 56 foul, or whatever that number is. I think it's 56. That's just absurd.
You already mentioned New Mexico is facing Mississippi State tonight. That's starting here shortly on Peacock, the Hall of Fame Classic in Kansas City. Colorado State taking on Denver. Grand Canyon taking on Northwestern State. Fresno State taking on New Orleans. San Jose State taking on Southern. So, I mean, New Mexico, Mississippi State's really the only game of interest.
Yeah, that's probably the one
tonight
that you might pay attention to. Nevada taking on UC Santa Barbara tomorrow will, I think, be an interesting one. So those are probably your two basketball games over the rest of today and into tomorrow. Obviously, tune in for the Aggies on Sunday against Davidson. That should be another one. So there should be plenty of good basketball played in the Mountain West. And as the season has taught us so far, some of these games are going to be dangerous. I mean, heck, for a minute it looked like Tulane was going to be dangerous to the Aggies until they said no.
No,
to that.
We're not going to play that game like many else have in the conference.
Yeah, a lot of the rest of the conference played with fire and got burned. The Aggies have yet to really play with fire outside of a little bit against Weber State, but even then, not too much.
And then there's a few more games in the Mountain West on Sunday. Wyoming hosting Norfolk State, Air Force hosting IU Indianapolis, besides what Utah State will do with Davidson. So nothing really of major note in the conference, but the conference needs to go through this weekend stacking wins because they've got a lot of embarrassing losses on their resume.
Yeah, and not too many marquee wins.
No.
There's a couple like UNLV over Memphis, Utah State over VCU, and outside of that, not much. Though San Diego State does play Michigan on Monday, so we'll see.
Yeah. All right, that's going to do it for us this hour on the Full Court Press. Stick around next hour. We'll get into our predictions for Utah State and Fresno State. Love to get your score predictions as well on the Young Power Sports of Logan text line.
I'm Dan Patrick, and this is Above the Noise. As the calendar turns to November, Thursday night in Houston served up the annual reminder of the NFL's great truth. Nothing flips a game faster than a pass rush. The Texans, wobbling through an uneven season, missing quarterback C.J. Stroud, walked into a matchup that looked like a mismatch on paper. A loaded Bills roster, backup quarterback on the other side, and that's a recipe for a long night. Houston never bought into that script. Instead, the Texans unleashed the kind of defensive fury that tilts the entire league. 8 sacks, relentless pressures, snap after snap, discomfort for Josh Allen, who rarely looks rattled. And by the end of 4 quarters, Houston walked out with a 4-point win. This is the equalizer. You can be outgunned, outmanned, undermanned at quarterback, but if you collapse the pocket, speed up an offense's heartbeat, that playing field levels in a hurry. It's November football. Talent matters, but having a great pass rush keeps you in a season. I'm Dan Patrick, and this is Above the Noise. It's being called